Hi, it's me, Marilia. It's really early in the morning, having one of those insomnia moments. Want to welcome you to the Salto del Gato Tarot Stories podcast. I talk here about the games I like to play using astrology, tarot, herbology, and metaphor. My philosophy is that there is medicine in the metaphor and that all of these games that we use are a way that we self-medicate ourselves. Had another video where I go in depth into that, but on this one, I'm not going to go there. I'm really going to try to just talk about what is trending right now in the world of the players of astrology. And that is the big move from Capricorn into Aquarius by the big little tiny planet. Yes, Pluto. It is a tiny little planet, and we astrologers still consider it a planet, but it's a powerful, dynamic planet. What Pluto does is that it brings in an energy. So in the game, its role is that of the great excavator, the one who comes in and there is no more doubt. We are now going in and we're digging. It's the surgeon who cuts in deep to find the mystery. It is the great revealer of secrets and of things that are hidden. It is all that we do to find what's underneath the surface. So that's where the Pluto energy focuses. It focuses on all things that are underneath the surface. And that can be implied as hidden, secretive, deceptive, sneaky, spying, researching, going microscopic. So you get the big picture. That's what Pluto does. Now, Pluto gets a bad rap as being the big, dark Hades of the zodiac. And in a sense it is, but there's two sides to everything. The other side of Pluto is one that is very transformative, one that brings in a big drastic change. And it is definitely a powerhouse. It is associated with everything that has to do with finances, power, joint funds, other people's money, insurances, taxes, debt, all of those things that are behind everything. So it also has to do with the structures behind the scenes, the foundations of what holds up and runs things. So it's a deep sign with deep implications. It has been in the sign of Capricorn, and it is now moving into the sign of Aquarius. Well, let's look at where it's been. It's been in a sign that deals with all the established structures and foundations of the systems that operate in the world. It's old things. But Capricorn does not give and relinquish control easily. Now, it is moving, Pluto, moving out of that sign and moving into a sign of Aquarius. Aquarius is like a huge power surge. It comes in, it just blows through suddenly, unexpectedly, with speed and brilliance, and it brings in huge change out of the blue. Whatever its effect is groundbreaking and changes everything. So you got the great excavator, the demolisher and deconstructor of the zodiac, which is Pluto, going into the energy of a power surge. You get the picture. Wherever this energy, so wherever Aquarius is in your birth chart, that house is going to be a construction site for the next 20 years. But it's not going to be demolishing everything for 20 years, but you are going to go through a demolition and then a rebuilding process in that area of your life. That could be good. It could be uncomfortable, all of that. On the world stage, because this really is going to also affect a lot of changes that you're not in control of, because it's going to have to do with the systems of the world that basically run the world you live in and run you. They control you. They control your finances and the laws and the rules and the established systems of banking and of all of that. All of that is going to be affected by this. So you inadvertently are going to be affected by it too. One of the big things is the system of banking. Our currency system right now is undergoing some changes that will absolutely affect each one of us individually. And one of the big things that's up for grabs here is that governments, and at least the government of the United States, is playing around with the idea, or it has the intention set, of introducing a centralized digital currency. Yes, like Bitcoin, except it's government controlled. But unlike Bitcoin, that is on a blockchain, that is decentralized, this one's going to be centralized, which means that it's going to be in the control of the government. You can use your own mind to see why that would not work so well in our behalf. Because if for any reason we were not in alignment with whatever the prevalent governmental or political thoughts are, they have control to cut our currency or access to our currency off. I'm not so sure that I'm open for that. But those are the things that are going to be handled by this energy that's coming in. Now, it's not coming in, boom, right away. It's actually doing this retrograde kind of pattern, which when we are, remember that all of these things that are being reflected in the stars are from the perspective of our viewpoint here on Earth. So from our viewpoint here, when we look up, it appears that some of these planets are moving backwards, but that's an illusion. They're not moving backwards, but they give that appearance, so it has that psychological effect on us that we think things are moving backwards. And so this particular path that Pluto has taken is that it moved out of Capricorn on March of 2023, and it brought with it AI, artificial intelligence, which was there all this time for years. People have been working on this, but it was not apparent to the masses of people. It was not obvious to our collective consciousness. When Pluto moved into Aquarius for that little brief period back in March of 2023, it brought along with it the awareness of artificial intelligence. And if you followed the news, you knew that all of the inventors and scientists that were working and that had actually produced artificial intelligence, they themselves were shocked. And all of a sudden they realized, wait, we need to put in some controls. And it's obvious that that is a futile attempt. So they're scrambling right now to figure out how to make this controllable, because they have created something where they have put in the capability to become intelligent, to be able to learn, to be able to teach itself into a machine. Yeah. So that's the kind of shocking revelations, the renovations that Aquarius represents. Now, there's a couple of other things with Aquarius. It's usually thought of, oh, yay, Aquarius is such a humanitarian sign, and it thinks of humanity as a whole. It does. It thinks of humanity as a whole in a very detached way from an interpersonal situation. So the individual is looked at and appreciated and considered as part of the whole, but not as an individual person. Let me explain to you. It's about what's best for the entire group as opposed to one individual. So there may be times where individual preferences can be sacrificed for the benefit of what is seen as a benefit for the entire group. In other words, the thoughts that Aquarius is going to bring in a euphoric period of time may not be what happens. That might be an illusion because Aquarius is detached and impersonal. And so the renovations that it brings and the innovations that it brings are explosive, sudden, but they're not specifically meant to be touchy-feely, because Aquarius is ruled by the planet Uranus, and Uranus energy is one that is quite sudden, unexpected, comes out of the blue, shocking, surprising, or some of the words that you can use to describe that energy, sometimes violent, but absolutely bringing in complete change. And change isn't comfortable for everybody. So the best thing to think about here is that these are things that are happening in the world that you're not going to be able to control. But what you can control is how you respond to the effects it brings into your life. And that's really all the control that you have. And so I would not look at this as something to be feared, but as something to be considered optimistically, and to be excited about looking at how you can apply it to your life. Now, let's talk a little bit about the track record for Pluto being in Aquarius going back 3,000 years. Chris Brennan, podcaster that I really like, did a tracking of Pluto in Aquarius going back to about 3,000 years ago, just to see if there was any pattern in what was reflected in the stars to events on Earth. And he did find some patterns. One of the things that he found was that technologies were introduced. And like back 3,000 years, the technology was paper. Up until then, they were, carving on cuneiform tablets, which was limited. But paper gave so much more freedom, and it made communication so much easier to share around the world and to carry from one place to another. So it was a technology that was introduced at one point back to 3,000 years, and over thousands of years it kept evolving. So it's a technology that keeps evolving. Also, there was a shifting of political leaderships. There were shifting of political systems and governments. And of course, that doesn't come without wars. So there was a lot of upheaval in the world during those periods of time. And that sets the pattern that we can expect will continue in our modern times. So if we look at just what's been happening just since last year, certainly wars are all over the place, and they're getting worse and they're getting scarier. And certainly the whole technological aspect of it is continuing, with artificial intelligence having come on the scene as a little infant, and just within a year, it has just infiltrated all areas of societies and of business and of creators, and it totally brought into the light that what is copyright laws, and what is true ownership of intellectual property. And when we create art, or when we create a work of a novel or a movie or a film or anything that we create, Does it really belong to us, or does it belong to humanity? See, that whole Aquarian theme, because artists were shocked to find that artificial intelligence was able to scan everything that was out there for fair use and put it in its databases, contain it. And then these little apps started popping up where you can put in some keywords into the app and say that, you want it to draw you a picture of a pig with a hat that is purple with green dots. And you can ask it to do it in the style of any particular artist. And it would do it. Because it would pull on all of the information that it has in its database and recreate the piece of art. And we were shocked because we thought, certainly computers can never do art. Well, yeah, they can. They can do it better than we can. And then there was others that just went out and stole somebody's style completely, their piece of work, and asked the AI to maybe make a few changes to it. And that whole, I don't know a lot about copyright, but I think, is it if you get somebody else's work that's out there for fair use and you make enough changes to it where it's now a little bit or significantly different, it now is no longer their work, it's yours, although they came up with the idea and the thought. So the point is that with Aquarius, which also deals with ideas and thoughts, it deals, my whole thing that I always talk about here on this channel is that I live in two worlds. I live in the world within my mind that's attached to this consciousness that I'm not sure is necessarily produced from my brain, but that may be something that my brain accesses. And because I'm spiritual, I call that spirit. And so I say it's something bigger than me. Well, that's one world, perhaps more attached to the right side of my brain, the right hemisphere. Then there's the other world where I wake up every morning embedded in this physical human body that engages in this physical world. And that's attached to the left side of my brain that's analytical and trying to figure out what's going on, how did I get here, who am I, and what am I doing here? So because I easily can relate to living in two different worlds that are part of one, I always keep in mind that everything that I encounter here, while I am consciously looking through the eyes that are part of the body in which I am embedded, I understand that everything I see and experience here is only half of the story. So an Aquarius is bringing that up. It's bringing up the fact that, the world of ideas doesn't necessarily belong to one person. All of that is going to be a theme that's going to be rehashed, because what's happening is that that Pluto went into Aquarius in March of 2023, signaling, hey, I'm moving, and brought in AI and shocked everything. And since then, there's been all these wars that have broken up all over the place. We have the war in Ukraine. We have Israel and Palestine going crazy. Now we have the United States shooting down drones or things in Lebanon. And we have now Iran and Pakistan in conflict. They're exchanging gunfire. And we have China saying that if Taiwan dares to claim independence, that means war. Now, let's talk about technology, because guess what Taiwan has? Taiwan is the one place where the mega chips that run everything, including this advancement in technology, most of the AI models, most of the computers that can run the AI models, those chips are all produced from Taiwan. Nobody else has them. Aquarius, Uranus influence. So this little country of Taiwan that may not seem like it's important, China wants it. And if China gets it, it gets that technology, it gets those chips. What does that mean? It means a lot, because none of us are driving a car if we have a car that we bought in 2000 that doesn't have over 100 chips that operate it. So those chips are going to wear out eventually. And our computer and our technology can hit a brick wall real quick. And you can see the implications here can be grand and deep. I'm not saying they're going to happen, but I'm saying that's already happening. I'm saying that's already the conflicts that are being on a global scale addressed. So while we're sitting home sleeping and figuring out what we're going to make for dinner, this stuff is taking place outside of us. So what do? Well, there's not a whole lot you can do because these are things that are out of your control. Like I said, you can control how you respond to them. One of the things you can do is if you are attuned to the fact that you do have another world that you live in that is attached to a very powerful source of inspiration and of ideas, your spirit world, then you know that it's bigger than you and there are forces there that you can invoke to support and guide you through here. So I would say lift yourself up into that world and allow yourself to connect with the sources of spiritual protection, clarity, and guidance that are available to you. But remember, you have to ask. And then after you ask, you have to open yourself up to receive. And that is done through developing a dialogue and developing trust. So there's a lot that's happening. A lot that's happening. And we'll see where we go. The main thing is to know that you'll be affected somewhere in your chart, wherever, like I said, the sign of Aquarius is housed in your chart. You're going to experience a construction site. Now, why am I even talking about this? Well, because today Pluto moves for the second time back into Aquarius, and it's going to be there until September. So that's almost 8 months. Now, it's not always going to be moving direct in that period of time. Somewhere, think about April or around May, it retrogrades, but it retrogrades within the sign of Aquarius. And then sometime in September, the retrograde motion takes it back into Capricorn. And then in November, it makes its final move. And what we see playing out is kind of like being mirrored to us, that there are these things that I just talked about that are on the horizon of challenges to address by humanity. The chips in Taiwan, the banking system wanting to go into a digital currency. The United States has made it known that it would like to move into a centralized digital currency. Yes, like Bitcoin, except Bitcoin was on a blockchain. It was decentralized, which meant that no one person controlled it. But the United States government has realized that, oh, wait a minute, but we can do a digital currency, but it'll be centralized and it'll be controlled. The implications of that is that, well, now the government has control over every individual's access to currency. And if you're not aligned with what they want you to be aligned with, they can shut you down. They can cut your access to currency. We can see how that would not be something that would work in our favor. So there's a lot on the horizon. It's an exciting time to be on Earth. One of the things that we can do here is to not panic, but to look at what's out there and use our critical thinking skills and follow our intuitive inspirations and prepare ourselves for the unknown, because Uranus brings in the unknown. Pluto reveals what was unknown. So we're going to be going into that type of an energy. In every one of us individually, there's an area in our lives that's going to be more affected than others. And that's where your birth chart comes in. If you need help accessing it, DM me. I can help you. I can either do a chart for you for your very small fee, or I can direct you to a place where you can get one for free. If I do it for you, I'll help explain what some of the things mean. If you get it done somewhere else, they might have some information on it. I mean, this is kind of in the world of astrology. It's relatively easy to get your access to your birth chart, but you do need to have precise information. You need to have not only the place that you were born in, the month, day, and year, but the exact time. And that one's the one that most people stumble. Anyway, that's what's happening and why it's such a big deal that we are all broadcasting our little Pluto podcasts, because little tiny Pluto is a powerhouse, and it's going to be joining forces with the explosive energy of Uranus. So there's a lot of things that are going to be happening. But you know what I say to you? Stay grounded. One of the things that I can suggest for you is that when you find out which area of your chart or life this energy is going to be really the most active, find ways of working with the energy to bring the best results that are going to be beneficial for you. These are spiritual energy, so you have to know that this is a time where spiritual forces are saying, we got to make these changes, and you need these changes here in your life. And rather than to fight that, work with it. Some of it is not going to be pleasant. That is what it is. Sometimes we have to learn the lesson from the 12th card of the major arcana in the tarot, which is the Hanged Man. And the Hanged Man brings in the lessons of learning how to be able to submit without losing yourself, without labeling yourself as a failure or as having made a mistake or as not being successful. That's all part of success. That's all part of it, is learning the submissive aspects that are required of us sometimes in life. And sometimes we have to dim our light so someone else can shine for a while in the dimming of our light, we can recharge our batteries and we can then come back with a more brilliant light. So that's something that we can learn from this process of what's happening in the stars. To ease all of these cosmic events that affect us in here, in our minds and in our spirit and in our lives, I always recommend metaphorical, because metaphor contains medicine for our souls. And what I mean by that is anything that you use in your practice of meditation, be it crystals, be it candles, be it aromatherapy, if you interact with tarot cards or astrology, if you just pick up a good book and read it, that's just all a way of finding spiritual medicine in the metaphors that you are interacting with through these different systems. Whether it's a good book that you pick up that just resonates with you, whether it's a book on archetypes and mythologies, whether it's a crafting of a spell as in the Yoruba traditions, or the Santeros do, whether it's picking up a deck of tarot cards and reflecting on what the card's symbology is reflecting into your mind and what story your mind is crafting for you in that experience. That's one of my favorite ways of doing things. Or whether it's reading your astrological chart and again, letting your intuitive perceptions of what you are seeing and interpreting, let your mind tell you a story that it wants you to know about it. That's how I like to do it. And I have other videos that I go into details about how to do that. I'm trying to get better at my instructional videos to guide you, not to teach you, because the processes of using anything in your life for divination is what they call it. I don't divine anything because my way of thinking and looking at it, all of this is that we have all of the answers within our mind. It's all embedded in the consciousness that we access, that I call spirit, that's bigger than us, because it can't all, that information cannot be contained in one little head. But we have access to it through prayer, through reaching out and invoking those energies to work in our lives, and then to opening ourselves up to receiving them and to trust that this process will take place. Those things are necessary. You ask, you receive, and you trust. In that process is where you find your healing, and you allow the process to take you through the journey of being healed. One of the biggest things that I use besides my tarot cards and astrology is herbs. I am a big believer in the energetic power of herbs, but chemically, in the left brain side of life, they're absolutely, they have a chemical effect on your body. Not like drugs. Now, drugs are something that you get an instantaneous response to in your body. With herbs, it's different. The herbs' chemical reaction in the body is to support the body's natural ability to be soothed, to be calmed, and to heal. So I like the energies in herbs. I see them as having their own little spiritual energies, and I like interacting with them and putting them together. I'm guided spiritually to do that and to work with the different combinations to develop some deliciously tasting but spiritually healing brews. And so I do tea ceremonies. I do them several times a year, and I do them to coincide with certain cosmic events, like for instance Pluto switching signs. I did a tea ceremony yesterday, and I chose deities and energies based on the day that I was doing it. So yesterday was Friday. Venus rules Fridays, so I chose herbs that align with the planet Venus, and the deity from the Yoruba tradition, because I grew up with santeros and santerias, and so I'm very comfortable with the Yoruba's deities. I chose Oshun because she aligns with the planet Venus and what it signifies, and the Archangel Raphael, because that's part of my Catholic imprinting, which also is that loving energy. And I just felt that at this time I needed to open myself up to receive love from the universe, love which encompasses so many things for me. It's not just like, oh, I have a love partner. I have love. I see through the eyes of love. I project love to others because, it's not always about me, getting from everybody. Sometimes you have to stop and you have to wonder when things are not going well, when relationships or communications with people are not going well. I can easily say, well, I'm just not a loving person, or I'm just, I just don't interact well with people. So instead of saying that, you can project out the thoughts that when you think that way, you're not able to project loving thoughts. The magnetism that love draws people to you cannot be in play if you're thinking and projecting, subliminal messages to yourself that you're not a loving person. So I did that ceremony to begin to see myself more as a loving person and be able to project that to people so that when they see me or interact with me, they receive a loving energy from me. Sometimes when we walk through life, and I'm 71 years old, and through life, depending on your particular circumstances that you were born into, some of us weren't born into the easiest circumstances, and we were calloused and scarred and beaten down by life. So when we get to a certain place where we just develop a certain persona that reflects everything we've been through, it's not easy to take a step back and look at that persona and say, is this really who I want to be perceived as? And that's kind of a very platonic vibe right now, to kind of take that knife to yourself, as you will, and dig deep beyond the skin that you are in. Look deeper into yourself and see. So I did that ceremony because I think love is, at the end of it, the most healing and the most powerful energy that there is. And I brewed the most delicious tea, I have to tell you. It was just fabulous. So I wrote down that recipe because I'm certainly going to be doing my Oshun blend. I am moving into a new era. Astrologically, my South Node, which has been in Libra, which has been focused to other people and my attachment to them, which at times has been unfair because my attachment to other people can be seen as kind of a forced attachment from their perspective if they don't have space in their lives right now for me. And there was a time that I would look at that and feel victimized by it or rejected. But now, through this movement where astrologically I realize I'm moving away, that's something that's leaving, I have to leave that behind. I'm moving into the areas, I'm moving into Aries in the North Node, which represents the realm of where I'm moving into. And Aries says it's time to take responsibility for you, yourself, and develop you. And so in that move, I am launching a new project. It's actually a business that I hope to launch. So I'm in the process of doing a lot of that. So my intention setting ceremony for this new energy that's coming in, that's going to be demolishing some areas in a certain area of my life and rebuilding it, I want that to include this new business that I want to get involved in and be successful. And I would suggest that for you. Do a ceremony, whether it's a tea ceremony or any other. I recommend tea ceremonies because when you set intentions, especially for setting intentions, when you set intentions and you incorporate all these different components, like I did with Oshun and whatnot, you are now intensifying the commitment to that intention. And that's metaphorical medicine. So it doesn't matter what your left brain is telling you about all this. Your right brain is pushing that aside and taking over the control of unblocking all of those things that you put in your way, getting you out of your own way to your goal. But in water specifically, water retains memory. So when you set an intention using water and then you affirm it further by creating a special incantation that you say at certain points in the ceremony, you have a powerhouse, very platonic powerhouse of energy that you're putting forth to bring and pull into your physical world of manifestation your goals. And in my next video, I'll give a step-by-step breakdown on how I do it, and you can use that as a sample template that you can then later take and customize. So thank you so much for listening. I hope that this clarified all of the hoopla about Pluto into Aquarius. And just to recant, Pluto went into Aquarius March of 2023 for a very short time, but it brought in AI. It left us behind, a whole trail of war and upheaval and all kinds of things taking place on the earth. It went back into Capricorn, where it's showing the established order does not want to let go of power. Most of the politicians that we have, at least the two front runners, are very old people. The thoughts and questions about our aging population has come to the surface, and here we have Capricorn, whose ruler happens to be in Pisces, which hospitals, nursing homes, all that comes under that. Now we have Aquarius. So today, Pluto moves into Aquarius. We'll see what that brings. I'm kind of excited to look at. It'll stay there for a while until I think sometime in September. It goes back into Capricorn in September, and then it finally moves its final move back into Aquarius in November 20th of 2024, where it'll stay. But I guarantee that there'll be a lot of new changes, but that's okay. Now, I just wanted to recap that. Oh, the population, the aging population of the world. It's an issue. China and in the United States, we have a very large number of aging people that are aging out of not only jobs, but they're getting old and they need to be cared for. And we don't have the same amount of young population to replace them. So that's another challenge. So many things are ahead of us. But understand this. You were put on this earth to be here during this time. You'll be okay. It'll be fine. It'll be what it is. So what you need to do is just focus on your spiritual healing and on projecting love and on receiving love. You can ask for anything that you want, but if you don't open yourself up to receive it, if you stand in your own way, there's nothing that can be done. So find the medicine in your metaphors and open yourself up to love. This is your host, Marilia, signing off. Thank you for stopping by, and as always, keep your tarot cards close and your curiosity active.